I will show you how to make a 100% natural vegan deodorant without baking soda. So personally, I switched to natural deodorants a couple of years ago for a couple of reasons. First of all, I read up on a few of the main ingredients that are present in conventional deodorants like aluminum and parabens, that they can actually mess up your hormones, which is not something I'm looking forward to. I know from personal experience having to deal with PMS and anxiety that hormone balance is everything. Any synthetic ingredient that doesn't help here can go out the door. Also, I don't like the smell of most synthetic perfumes under my armpits. They just mix with the sweat odors and they make it a whole lot worse. And then the last thing is the whole not being allowed to sweat, the whole antiperspirant thing. I believe it's a bit outdated. I mean, we sweat as humans and we have to accept it. Yes, you might want dry armpits all the time and have no hair or sweat or smell or whatsoever because it's nasty, but our armpits actually have sweat glands for a reason. They remove toxins from our body, and if you block them, if you block the sweat glands, then the toxins have to go somewhere. And I don't want to know where they will end up. For me personally, I don't mind a bit of sweat if this means my body can regulate itself in a natural way. It's just worth it for me. Then, last but not least, I am always looking for ways to reduce my use of plastic as much as I can. So I wanted to put this deodorant in a reusable jar that I could use over and over again. So let me introduce today's ingredients and then we will start the tutorial. So when I first started formulating natural deodorants, I started with regular DIY recipes with coconut oil and beeswax. There were a couple of things I discovered. The coconut oil actually stained my clothes and I really didn't like the smell of coconut underneath my armpits for some reason. So it smelled of cake. It's not my thing. Also, the baking soda. It was my main ingredient in the first few batches, and this ingredient is simply not for me. It irritates my skin, I get red bumps everywhere and it itches, but I had to come up with a substitute because baking soda has an important function in deodorants as it hides the pH underneath your armpits, and a higher pH actually helps with the prevention of odors, which is of course an important aspect of a deodorant. I've therefore replaced the baking soda with 3 powders. And after experimenting, I found that the combo of magnesium hydroxide, arrowroot powder and kaolin clay is the best replacer for baking soda. So magnesium hydroxide actually highes the pH, and both kaolin clay and arrowroot powder, amazing sweat absorbers. So I really love the consistency now with these 3 powders, so you don't have to use baking soda if it irritates your skin. For the waxes and butters, I have chosen a vegan substitute for beeswax, as I believe it is really not necessary to use as much beeswax anymore, as the alternatives are simply amazing. And after some experimenting, I found that berry wax in combination with Miraca fruit wax, they feel and act the same way as beeswax does. They are hard yet smooth, which is really, really nice in this recipe. So there you go, you don't have to use beeswax. So to make this recipe smoother, I have chosen to add jojoba oil. It's not jojoba, it's jojoba oil. It sounds horrible when I pronounce it like that, but that's how it's pronounced. Jojoba oil is a liquid wax, so it doesn't feel greasy under the skin, which is great because you don't want greasy armpits. I mean, who wants that? And now let's start a tutorial. So the tools you need for this recipe are a thermometer, a spatula, and I always use glass rods for this, a glass beaker, and a digital scale, and something to heat your ingredients in. So you can set up a double boiler, or bain-marie setup, just like a pan in hot water, or I'm using this hot plate because I will only be melting the ingredients for a short time. So step 1, we are going to add the waxes and the butter to the glass beaker, and we're going to melt them. Okay, the butters and waxes have melted. This only takes a minute or so. Take it off the heat and add the jojoba oil. Give it a quick mix. And then to this, we are going to add the arrowroot powder and kaolin clay and the magnesium hydroxide. So it looks like it's not going to incorporate into the oil mixture, but the volume is a lot bigger than what it actually is. So I'm melting the butters and waxes first and then adding the jojoba oil, because that way you already lower the temperature of the mixture. It has to be below 40 degrees before we add the essential oils and the rosemary antioxidant, because they are sensitive to heat. So if you do it this way, it will go a lot quicker. Let's see what the temperature is now. Okay, so it's below 35 now and it's still liquid. So now we can add the essential oils. For this recipe, I have chosen to add sage and lemon because I love the smell of them. First of all, that's always my main reason, to be honest. Because you put it on your armpits and, you know, it has to smell like something you like. But sage and lemon both have antioxidant properties. Actually, sage is very well known to prevent and mask odors. So it has multiple functions in this recipe. I'm also adding a rosemary antioxidant. So this is basically a rosemary extract together with sunflower oil. And I'm adding 0.2% of this in the recipe to make sure that the butters and oils are protected against oxidation. You can also use vitamin E oil and you can use any essential oil that you like. You can use maybe lavender or rosemary. The varieties are endless. Just get creative and make something that you like yourself. So we are adding 1% of essential oils in this recipe, which comes down to 0.2 grams for each essential oil, 6 for the lemon and then for the sage. Okay, and now for the rosemary antioxidant, we are adding, I think it's 1 drop, should be enough. And we're gonna mix that in as well. Your deodorant will get a nice greenish yellow color. And now all we have to do is transfer our deodorant to this cute little jar. So now all you have to do is put it in the fridge and let it solidify for at least 1 hour, and then it should be done. If you leave it in the fridge, it's no problem. It will just be rock hard when you take it out. But don't worry, it will become smooth again as soon as it reaches room temperature. So I already made one yesterday, and this is what it looks like when it comes out of the fridge. I've already put my finger in there, as you can see. But it's nice, light and fluffy. And all you have to do is just put your finger in there in the morning and scrape a bit out of the jar and then put it underneath your armpits, and that's all. I can show you the consistency. I'm just gonna scrape a little bit out of the jar. As you can see, it's quite firm, but it's still soft. It melts on your skin, so it's quite easy to apply. Of course, afterwards you have to wash your hands. I know not everyone likes to do this, but I don't think my armpits are that nasty. So for me, it's fine to put this underneath my armpits and then just wash my hands. If you wash it with a little bit of soap, you easily remove the excess deodorant from your hands, so don't worry too much about that. It's almost like putting a natural wax in your hair and then having to wash your hands afterwards. So it takes a bit of getting used to, but yeah, definitely try out this recipe, and I would love to hear what you think of this recipe. So please let me know in the comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.